Welcome to this course on mental math. This is a core thinking skill, and it's something that pops up all the time when you're at a restaurant and you're calculating a tip, which is figuring out percentages. In business, if you're doing a partnership, and you get a certain percentage and they get a certain percentage, understanding how those split up. Taxes, understanding how taxes are going to affect what you're doing and estimating or getting an exact figure on how much money is going to go to that. Turning percentages into fractions. So 1/4 equals 25%, 1/8 equals 12.5%, and other stuff like that. So we're going to talk about percentages. We're going to also talk about adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. These are some of the core skills, especially in terms of money, to be able to do easily. We're also going to be talking about generating ballpark figures. So this is something that's really valuable when you're talking about thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, even billions of dollars. Being able to quickly get a sense of, okay, what is that number roughly? How many zeros are on that number? Stuff like that. And not getting, once there's more, 4 zeros versus 5 zeros versus 6 zeros. People can get lost with this stuff and accidentally think it's the wrong number of zeros. So being able to keep track of that stuff. You're also going to learn what's basically a BS detector, which is how do you know whether your answer is right or wrong? For example, a simple one is if you multiply any even number by any number, whether it's even or odd, you're going to get an even answer. The only way you can get an odd is if you do an odd multiplied by another odd number. And there's rules like this for addition and subtraction, division as well. Okay, so you need to have these sort of basic things to know once you've done this big calculation in your head, does this sound right? Or if somebody gives you a number, you automatically know it's wrong because it's set off one of those BS detectors. So I'm also going to explain through all of this how to increase performance. So how do you actually get faster at this stuff, and how do you break down these skills? What are the things that actually go into being good at mental math? So when you're talking about performance, you're talking about how long does it take you to do a certain calculation. And this is really important in negotiations, because when you're going back and forth and you're saying, well, I want this number, I want that number, and you're 1.5% apart, 1.5% may be a little bit, it may be tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you need to understand what this number means. When you're getting a credit card and it's 1% cash back versus 1.5% cash back versus 2% cash back, what does that mean? When they say you're going to get 1.5% cash back, and then on top of that, you're also going to get 10% on whatever your bonus is. So for example, you spend $200, your cash back is going to be $3. And 10% of that $3 is going to be 30 cents. So you're going to total get $3.30. Whereas if you're going to get 2% on $200, that would be $4. And that would be more. So people get confused about stuff like this, and you need to be able to be good at mental math to be able to easily figure this stuff out. And a lot of mental math it's a combination of memorizing things like your times tables. So that's part of how you increase performance. Having a standard method that you use every time that's always going to work and knowing that cold. There's also memory skills. Once you're carrying a lot of numbers, you're carrying 3-digit multiplied by 3-digit number, or even 2-digit multiplied by 2-digit numbers, you're carrying numbers over. And you go 2-digit, you go to 3-digit, you go to 4-digit. It's like adding plates when you're doing a bench press. It's one plate. That's sort of your first goal. And then you add some more plates and some more plates. You're carrying more digits. It gets more difficult. Eventually, your short-term memory doesn't have enough room to easily store all these numbers. And so there's tricks, there's mnemonic techniques to allow you to memorize numbers a lot easier. You'll learn that. So that's part of improving your performance. I'm also going to tell you how to practice this stuff to get really good at it, to the point where a lot of it is automatic and it feels very physical. Once you get good at this stuff, you don't feel like you're typing stuff into the computer, doing some algorithm. It feels more like you're Tarzan and you're in the forest and you're going from vine to vine, and you're sort of another metaphor is chopping things up. So you have a piece of meat and you're trying to chop around the bone, or you're trying to chop it into similar sized pieces. So there's if you've never developed a mental skill like this before, or you've never been good at math, let me just tell you right now, it really doesn't matter how good you are right now. None of these are about inherent, IQ, or very little of it is about that. It's really much more about the skills you have. And once you even get pretty good at this stuff, you don't have to be very good. You don't have to spend hours and hours drilling yourself. But if you can just know all of this stuff and practice it a little bit, you're going to be in the top 1% in any room, in any negotiation you're ever in any conversation. Anytime there's math involved, you're always going to have the answer before the other person. And as you know, in negotiations or any sort of situation where there's the potential for conflict, or there's an advantage to being faster or higher performing, let's say you're negotiating for a raise in salary. If you have this stuff down better than your boss, then that gives you an advantage in that negotiation. People don't like to look stupid. They don't like to look slow. So having a little bit of an edge here can make a big difference. And this is not something, again, that you had to be good at math. You don't need to know algebra. You don't need to know calculus. This is stuff that there's kids that are in second, third, fourth grade that know this stuff, and they're faster than any adult. So you don't need advanced mathematics to be good at this. And my opinion is 99% of people don't need to know algebra. They don't need to know calculus, or they just need to know, they could watch a 10-minute YouTube video and know most of what they ever need to know about those subjects. But mental math is something that everybody uses, and there's a huge payoff to just being a little bit better at it. So this course is going to give you everything you need. When I talked about performance, I talked about memory, I talked about those memory skills, what kind of practice you can do, having a strategy that works every time. You're also going to learn a bunch of hacks or shortcuts. These are ways of certain numbers, there's a trick to doing the calculation faster without having to do it the slow way. And what happens is, as you accumulate more and more of these hacks, at the beginning, it's like a third of the calculations you're doing, there's a hack that you can apply. You learn some more of these tricks, some more of these hacks, and now there's 50% of calculations. You're not doing it the slow, normal way. There's at least one hack you can apply to it. And once you get into bigger numbers or more complicated calculations, you can actually stack these hacks or these tricks on top of each other. So you're doing 2 digits by 2 digits. You can already see, I can take that hack and that hack. And that's where it feels like you're sort of chopping things up, or you're in the forest and you're sort of navigating. Another metaphor is like you're playing basketball or football and you're sort of finding that weave, that path, and you're sort of juking one way or the other, and it becomes intuitive. Your brain intuitively sees that gap and then goes through it. And that's those little tricks, those little hacks. So eventually, more than half, 2/3 or even more, or pretty much almost every time you're doing mental math, you're almost never doing it the slow way. It's very rare that you do it the slow standard way. There's always at least one hack you can apply, and usually multiple. And so that's where the gains really come in. And there's certain hacks where to really get the most bang for your buck, you need to do additional memorization, and then that gives you another edge. So an example of that would be knowing the squares of numbers that are more than 10. So knowing the square of 15, which is 15 times 15, or knowing the power of twos. You probably are familiar with this because the sizes of hard drives or USB drives goes up generally in powers of two. So it's like 1 gigabyte, 2 gigabytes, 4 gigabytes, 8 gigabytes, 16 gigabytes, 32, 64, 128, et cetera, et cetera. So you get that facility, and you can recognize special numbers, special situations where you can use a trick, and then that lets you do stuff faster, and sometimes a lot faster. So this is stuff that I was lucky. When I was really young, I had some math teachers that did a combination of just drilled me on certain tests where I got really fast at certain basic calculations. And then I just learned a few of these hacks from another teacher once I was in middle school. And the combination of those two things has given me the ability to do a lot of stuff in my head. And more recently, I decided to really figure out, well, how far can you take this stuff? And I realized I started teaching other people this stuff, and it really is not that difficult. And you're going to impress yourself by what you're able to do by the end of this course. So very important thinking skill. It's something that you're going to find yourself using almost every day once you have it. And especially in those situations when you're talking about money, when you're negotiating, when you're figuring out, is this a good deal or not? You don't want to have to pull out your phone, pull out your calculator. If you can get it in your head and do this stuff easily, it's a huge boost of confidence as well. Because culturally, we associate a lot of what it means to be smart with mathematical ability and quickness. And that's going to be a big boost to your confidence if you maybe never felt like you had that skill. This is going to be huge for that, and it's really not that difficult. It's really actually pretty easy. So I'm very excited to be putting out this course, and I hope to see you inside.